Give us any chance, we'll take it. Read us any rule, we'll break it. We're gonna make our dreams come true.
Welcome to Navtastic, podcast about 8 seasons in a row. I'm Mr. Fernandes, and
I am Chris Jayawardena. Hello.
And we're bringing you One Heck of a Note, which is the second episode in the 5th season of Laverne and Shirley. Directed by Joel Zwick, who will be directing a lot of this season's episodes, and written by Jeff Franklin. And we're going to bring up some facts about them later on in the podcast, aren't we?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got quite some interesting little factoids and a little quote from Joel Zwick.
Yeah. We're really excited to talk about them. Here's what the episode's about. Laverne and Shirley are cleaning their apartment one afternoon when a moved stove reveals what appears to be an old but passionate smush note from Carmine to Laverne. Shirley goes apoplectic, and Laverne has to explain that she and Carmine tentatively tried to date. Secretly, and behind Shirley's back while she was helping Terry Buttafuoco with an upcoming birth of some puppies during one of Carmine and Shirley's Season 2 era open relationship semi-breaks. While the passion between Carmine and Laverne flamed out really quickly, Shirley's still filled with anger that it even flared at all. Can the girls' friendship be saved? What do you think of this episode?
Hey, future me, you're going to play a clip. It stinks! Okay, that maybe is putting it a little too harshly. There are some things I liked about the episode. There's some really cute things about the episode. Even with this very misguided, I guess, like, I find this concept to be incredibly misguided. But that being said, it's still there's some good stuff in there. I guess what I mean is it's better executed than this concept usually is. Because the infidelity plots are just not my favorite anyway. There are sometimes I can find it to work just as intrigue and etc. I mean, I love film noir, and a lot of film noir is about adultery. But this was weird. It was almost I give Carmine a lot of crap, but this felt out of character for him.
This is a really uncomfortable episode. Coming at this point in canon after Carmine and Shirley have gone so far as to solidify the relationship over the past season, and you had that whole big thing, Shirley and the older man, about how, they would get closer and all this stuff. And then we get this plot where it turns out that Carmine and Laverne thought they were crazy about each other. And the nebulous time frame here really doesn't do anybody any favors, because is this when Carmine was with Lucille? Is this after Lucille? Is this when Carmine and Shirley were seeing each other on and off, but this is one of their infamous breaks? I have no idea what the time frame is for this, and the audience reacts in the here and now to seeing this kind of betrayal. Basically, it really is a betrayal of Laverne to Shirley by horrified gasping. Mm-hmm. There's so much horrified gasping in this episode, and it's justified in a lot of ways. At this point, in canon, Carmine and Laverne really don't work. It works better in season 8 when there's basically nobody else there but them. Here, it's just uncomfortable. Everything about this episode is just discomforting in a lot of ways. Yeah, because go ahead.
Regarding the audience reaction, there's some people that are kind of hooting and hollering a bit at first.
Yeah.
And then when you hear it die down, and it dies down partly because the kiss goes on for so long, especially the second kiss, to the point where it gets to be okay, this isn't funny anymore. This isn't just a cute little mistake. And when they see the the reality of it kind of hits them like the sober cold water bucket. It's very strange in that regard. And also my mom, when watching this episode, I kind of warned her, you're gonna be a little upset at this one. And she goes, her comment was, "Oh, it's one of those episodes to get people to watch." It's oh no, she's dating Carmine and he's cheating on Shirley. That's how they get you. And I like how she even remarked, I would have ended it as maybe it was just all a dream, or something misremembered, do the Rashomon thing, where Carmine remembers it as something more than it really was because he was dealing with, stuff with Shirley, which would actually help elevate his character and his own like insecurities and things like that and make him this kind of more endearing, character. But it's
complex.
Yeah, exactly. But it goes for very much the cheap sitcom, like a little bit Three's Company, a little bit, just any sitcom. A lot of sitcoms did this kind of crap, especially ones that were meant for older audiences, which this episode is obviously geared toward.
Yeah. The big issue with this is that the girls' relationship is paramount. Whenever we have had a man attempt to come between them, ultimately they realize the friendship is paramount. Here, Laverne deliberately puts Carmine over Shirley, and they're sneaking around trying to make sure she never finds out, consumed by guilt. They think they're crazy about each other. And it's an incredibly uncomfortable experience. It really, really is just so uncomfortable. I don't know if it's the chemistry between Penny and Eddie, which normally works just fine. If it's the overselling of the love-hate thing, I don't know what it is. But man, just even rewatching those, it's like having your skin just crawl. A little bit. No insult to our Carmine Laverne loving followers. Chris will eventually understand why you're into them later when we get to California.
But I don't know. Jury's out. I'm being nice about it, but we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see. Yeah. I get to be the one to change my mind or not, and I could decide to be cruel. I can decide to be merciful. Anyway, but as you're also pointing out, the chemistry is part of it. I was kind of boggled by how Eddie here also sort of shows an interesting flaw in Carmine in the way that he physically is portrayed, and it feels very directed. Like this is also kind of intentional, which I wonder if this is one reason why they really didn't want to, it's not maybe the reason why, but it's an example of how they didn't want to pull the trigger on Carmine and Shirley. This is the item that's going to be forever. And they wanted to create this will they, won't they, back and forth, push, pull, as you really well put it. He's not passionate with the way he kisses women. He is pervy about women. He's attracted to women. But you notice that like with his encounters with Shirley, and I wonder if this is why, like in the case of like Date with Eraserhead, I kind of like could relate to his situation and also feel like you're an asshole for going out, with other girls about it. He lets Shirley lead. Yeah. And I don't think that's a bad thing. This is, all relationships are kind of different. And sometimes they're even in states of flux, like ours is kind of back and forth. Sometimes I lead, sometimes you lead. It's a partnership.
Yeah. Exactly.
And it feels like with Eddie, the way that Carmine is portrayed, the way he's playing Carmine, which is partly writers, partly directors, and partly him, the chemistry with Laverne has no passion to me. And it also kind of made me realize how hollow some of the passion is even with Cindy, with Shirley. And where
that's interesting.
Because like he's very physically attractive and he's very physically fit. So, there is something kind of exciting about, like when here's what my point is. Think of how like in the bachelor party, he cradles Shirley and he holds her in his arms. And it's so like I'm rescued, he completely sobers up in an instant and and does the white knight thing and rescues the damsel. Here, I don't see that type of warmth out of him this time.
Yeah. They're kind of going for blatant erotic chemistry. Like, if Laverne and Carmine just fucked once, to be frank, I'm allowed one F word. I'm allowed one F word out of PG-13. If they screwed just one time and got this out of their systems, everything would be fine. But they don't. So, because as a couple, when they try to do actual couple-y things, that's just not the two of them palling around, they immediately dissolve into childish bickering. And you can compare the childish bickering the two of them have in a dating situation to the childish bickering Laverne and Lenny have, to bring that up for a reason.
For obvious reasons.
Obvious reasons. No, I'm kidding. Okay. But you can compare the two different kinds of chemistry here and look at it and see that with other guys, Laverne can have this like childish, like brawling, beery chemistry with them, and yet the tenderness and the camaraderie is still there. With Carmine, it reads as if she just wants to have hate sex with him and then, discard him. Almost. Again, apologize to our shipping friends. But this is how it reads in this specific episode to me. It's like you don't get a sense that there is something binding there, something interesting, something that kind of pops, that might make them look at each other and see something different in each other. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, and exactly. And it makes a lot of sense because you basically have, I think what furthers that is, from one of my notes, is the way Shirley in the situation is made into the bumbling fool, not seeing the affair that's possibly coming.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same as like the old joke of like the very obliviously cuckolded husband. And, it's like, okay, so it's, that's kind of, you can, again, this is a case of you can do these ideas well in ways that are interesting, especially if like the punchline is, they're told and they're like, oh, that's fine. And they have no problem with it, and they, and then segue into a polyamory, situation, which is, can be cute, can be funny, can be whatever. Yeah. This is just like pretty much every facet of this doesn't completely work, Yeah.
It doesn't really gel. The problem is that it doesn't gel, and it doesn't gel because they're asking the audience to look at this, believe that this happened, and believe that Laverne kept this secret from Shirley for years, while she and Carmine are getting closer again. That's the even bigger problem here. The betrayal takes on a different note when you realize, wow, she's had this secret in the back of her head, and she doesn't even consider it a big deal, but she knows to Shirley, the princess living in the castle, hoping that her Dr. White Knight will ride up with a medical degree in one hand and a wedding ring in the other, thinks of romance with Carmine in an entirely different way.
Right.
So it's hard to sympathize with Laverne here.
Yeah.
It really is hard to sympathize with her. She does not come off well in this. Even though the only saving grace is that the two of them are incredibly consumed with guilt in the beginning, when the whole situation is going down. That's the only saving grace. And then, in the end, they don't even feel guilty enough about it to come clean to Shirley until they get caught. That's a major crushing Catholic guilt, as well as point out.
Yeah.
Major crushing Catholic guilt going on there. If this were later in the 60s, they probably just would have had sex, and that would have been the end of it, and then they would have had to argue about whether or not it counted, because apparently Carmine and Shirley are seeing each other, but on a break, but it makes no sense, really. I tried to figure out where in early season 2, this could have taken place, because right at the beginning of season 2, Carmine, once again, is dating Lucille. So it doesn't make any reverse canonical sense at all.
Right. And
if you really think about the episode.
Furthermore, as we discussed through season 1, he dumps her in dating slump. Like, they date, but they are not steady at that point anymore. And, so that means both of them are free to, seek greener pastures elsewhere. And that's when you're on that separation period, the rules kind of work differently. And if that's part of the framing of, again, this is the weird element. This seems to kind of come up, right? With whenever we discuss these episodes that are very, what's the word I'm looking for?
Controversial? Crappy. There you go.
Well, I guess what I mean is like the ones that have these sort of kind of there's room here to see growth. Yeah. There is room to see these characters have real moments. And because of the situation and because of the sitcom and the medium, the limitations of that, they are not allowing that to take place. We talked about this with Date with Eraserhead. We talked about this with Laverne's Crush and other episodes, many other episodes that I've had issue with. I mean, even like we even said, like, to some extent with Bully Show, that could have been an interesting, dynamic of Squiggy wanting to let you know, the guy have his way, and Lenny being defending the situation, you know, defending Laverne basically, and like trying to do everything he can to stop it. Or the boys realize what's going to happen, and both of them are trying to stop it, and they're like trying to, again, they're such bumbling idiots that it turns into even more of a fiasco in the process, you know. So there's ideas not to, because what that says about them is like about limits, or in this case, what it says is Shirley having to confront, as you're saying, she has this dream of something, and then there's a reality of something else. And what this sort of says, the fact that she gets so mad, Shirley is having to confront how important Carmine really is to her. Yeah,
exactly. Exactly. And you keep hoping this is going to lead somewhere, and then, you know, the show's problem is that it needs to lead somewhere. All of these feelings need to lead somewhere. They need to get exclusive, or they need to break up permanently at some point. And the show just yo-yos and yo-yos and yo-yos it up and down. It's just,
Yep. Goodness. But yeah, so does that kind of cover our
initial thoughts?
Initial thoughts, yeah. Yes. Yeah, we're trying to experiment a little bit with structure a bit here, ladies and gents, and other persons of, I don't know. We probably have squid people that watch the show now, right? We're beaming this out into space. Yes, possibly indeed. To any cephalopod, you know, creatures, you know, first of all, bow down before the almighty Cthulhu who sleeps in eternally. And second of all, thank you for listening to the show. We really appreciate it. Please leave us comments and subscribe. Anyway, so one of the things that I also find interesting about the background of this episode, and this gets us to kind of details on writer, director, and any actors for this week. This episode was written by Jeff Franklin, and Jeff Franklin, as we've discussed before, is the Full House guy. This was, he wrote many episodes of the show. It's the second of 13 episodes for the show. So he has 11 more to go. He also was a producer on this part of the series, and kept up until about early season 7 was when he left. This is the interesting thing I did not realize about Jeff Franklin. In 2019, the Hollywood Reporter revealed details of a probe by Warner Brothers that Franklin had accusations of sexual harassment in the workplace.
Oh, dear.
From the wiki, I'm going to mention. So, okay. So just a couple of, you know, quick content warning for anybody that we are going to discuss this, because I want to discuss a bit in detail, because it's kind of, it's a little telling, you know. Apparently, staffers on Fuller House commented that Frank would talk about orgies he had over the weekend, and claimed that Franklin had his assistant request that all the writers come to his mansion, and were reminded multiple times to bring their bikinis.
Oh, dear.
He would also complain about having to hire directors who were women, also persons of color, expressing preference for male writers, apologizing to his staff for not dating Jewish women, and describing female directors as all the same, and making sexualized comments.
Ooh, oh my, oh dear, oh no. Oh no.
So as much as we also and so this is the interesting thing about this, is that despite him being ousted from Fuller House for these allegations of misconduct, and apparently just toxic workplace environment in general, he still is credited as producer on that show, because it's continuing to keep going without him. So it's a weird thing. But it's like, when I put that into context, it was like, okay, this makes a little bit of sense that this guy would be the one who lands the writing credit for an episode like this, because it's, you know, it's trying to play these elements off as a laugh, and especially for people of today's sensibilities, that ain't funny.
Yeah.
So
it is messy. That is messy and ugly in a way. Yeah, you can see that it all connects back into everything else. And awful.
Yep.
Awful, terrible.
Now, thankfully, on the flip side, the director of this week's episode is Joel Zwick, who has had no allegations, as far as we know, against him. Has been pretty cool dude. If I recall, actually, even though I have a quote here that it's a little insensitive ableist origin or ableist or original phrasing, the way he put this. But he talks about, we discussed in the prior episode to this about Shotgun Wedding and the big major collaboration that Zwick made the jump from acting to directing sitcoms. It's quoted as saying, he, in this article that we'll link in the description below from Bingen Blog, he ended up getting his first TV directing gig by telling the head lady of ongoing production at Paramount, listen, I've never directed a situation comedy in my life, but I've been watching, in my estimation, a monkey can direct sitcoms. I can talk to actors and I can talk to writers. You ought to give me a shot. There was a word that I blipped out of there. Don't use the R word, kids. But definitely this is, it's a cool example, though, at least of Joel's like, I can do it. It's simple, right? I can talk to actors. I can talk to writers. You got to give me a shot. And it's led to a rather incredibly prolific career that is currently still going, actually. Yeah. But I wonder, to an extent, just given like how, because this is what I'm trying to get at. I wonder to what extent Joel looked at this script himself and was like, communicated it the best he could, but like either added those touches, as we're saying, that made things awkward, like it doesn't really work, so it kind of telegraphs the twist at the end, or I don't know. I'm curious. Do you have any thoughts about that?
I don't know if he looked at that and just like, oh gee, I can see this and I'll try to get around it, but I don't know. Once again, you have to look at the writer's room culture for the show. You look at the writer's room culture for the show, you'll look at the basic on-set culture of the show, period, and you go, oh yeah, that's how things like that, like something the cracks ended up on screen, really. Yeah. Yeah.
But, like, go ahead, sorry, go ahead.
No, was I making sense? Well, I was going to ask if I was making sense, because I was trying to
it's
together. Yeah.
It connects, because it's
good.
There, people just, I don't know, people are weird. We're zonked out there, ladies and germs, boils and ghouls. We're
everybody's just a little bit zonked, but I have energy. I'm alive, damn it. Alive.
Unlike the relationship on display in this episode.
Yes, everybody's romantic relationship is dead except for Shirley and Carmine's, which I guess continues to thrive in its unwholesome way as we go along.
I love that phrasing of that.
It's wholesomely unwholesome if you really think about the Shirley-Carmine relationship, in which they have like sweet, chaste affection for each other to a degree. We do know they cruise the side streets of Smut City. But on the other hand, they do all this nonsense to each other. It's all nonsense. Yep. There's so much nonsense. It's a titanic amount of nonsense. This is an example of the nonsense. So, just... Yep. That's why they drive me crazy sometimes.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. So, for trying to figure out, so let's see. So we don't have a hello gag to call out for this episode.
No, sadly. We do, however, have a apparently deleted scene. They either died in rehearsals or actually made it to the air and is not in the syndicated DVD/DVD cut version of this episode. Lenny and Squiggy show up at Meckler's, where Shirley is demonstrating appliances in lieu of Terry Buttafuoco being home with her schnoodle puppies. And apparently something happens where she gets utterly covered in mud, thanks to the boys. These stills exist on Getty. I don't know if the scene exists, but they were involved in this episode. They just, the version that we have on the DVD does not include them.
Right. That seems to be the case. Yeah. CBS, say CBS.
CBS for screwing us.
So we've discussed a lot of where a lot of the weaknesses of the episode. What are some strengths? What do we like about this one?
Let me think. I like that moment where Shirley comes in and her little Dale Evans doodads going yippee-ki-yo-ki-yay. Now that's cute.
Oh, it is. Yes.
I like the way Penny and Eddie portray the heavy, heavy guilt they're feeling. And the stupid lengths Laverne tries to go to protect Shirley from the situation. I like their escalating argument during their attempt at a romantic dinner.
Mm-hmm.
Squat dancer and her being droopy. And I don't love you. I don't love you either. That's funny.
And
That's
the crowd
actually-
goes wild. Yay!
Crowd lost applauding at that, which says it all, really sadly. Sadly, in this particular episode, that says a lot. Just in this particular episode.
Yep. Yeah, I have many things that I definitely, and this is because this is going to be weird when we get to the ranking, is that I still had stuff I liked about this episode. Like, I liked spraying the L on the fridge and then the creative use of the hiney, you know?
I love that. Oh, that was adorable.
And like the
She defrosted it.
Oh yeah, well then
that fridge.
And oh, that's right. It's like if you keep rubbing your hiney like that, you'll you'll defrost it or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. She defrosts the fridge. She'll defrost the fridge with her hiney.
And and then the oven, no one goes back there aside from the cockroaches. Well, they deserve a clean home too, and which is just
so Shirley.
Shirley's animal love thing. That's her absolute adoration for animals, and just like they must, they're precious creatures that must be protected at all costs. I am adoring it so far this season.
I love it. It's very pronounced this season. It's more pronounced than it was last season. I did notice that.
Mm-hmm.
At least in the early portion of it. That's sweet. That's very cute. So that's what you like. That's what you've liked so far. That's what you like for this episode. I like the little flashback where we first see Edna in her old season 2 hair.
I was about to mention. Yep.
I love that they bothered to darken Phil's hair for the scene, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But they did not bother to have him shave his mustache for the week.
Yeah.
Which is a choice.
Yeah, it's a choice. Yeah, and there's a lot, and I guess that's the thing, is there's these little like actor gestures that really make this come alive. Like as you were saying with the with Frank and Edna, there's those little looks. It's like, oh, she's not my type, and then she orders then she does the pizzas thing, and she's just kind of a little lean, and then is the way that Phil gets that look on his face, that it morphs into like it's like, oh yeah, that's it. And I love that when I was watching this with my mother, we watched that scene, she made like shoving gestures of the two of them, like, get together, you two, you crazy kids.
Oh, that's so sweet.
And then her commenting that Edna was gorgeous, like just before Frank goes hi, is so cute. It really shows. Also, I think Betty and Phil just had incredible chemistry that I don't think we talk about enough, to be honest. We brought it up in Making Up and Breaking Up, but God, they're so cute together.
They really are. They really are. They really are adorable. I loved when she looked at him and the line is, "I'm a sucker for big mustaches." That's adorable. I mean, come on. That's cute.
Yep.
And she was all heck. And that's apparently just after Edna took over the building, which we don't get to see actually happen on screen in season 2. But yes.
Oh, really?
No, it doesn't have. She just happens to show up in the apartment one day, if I remember correctly. That's what happens in the episode.
Yeah.
She shows up, she comes down to collect the rent and talks about everything going on with Lenny and Squiggy.
Gosh. Sitcoms. I mean, I remember that as if that was only a year ago.
And when this episode comes out, it's going to be 2 years ago. Yeah, so close. We're getting there. Okay, so I have a question, though, when we're talking about strengths and weaknesses. So yes,
this is the hate sex episode instead of Shirley and Squiggy. I feel denied, and I do possibly want a refund. What about you?
On the negative side, God, this episode makes both Carmine and Laverne look terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And not even in a way that's properly redeemed, because Carmine's like, oh, I don't remember any of this. None of this happened to me. There was a note. I don't remember thinking I was crazy about this woman and wanting to dip my elbow in her spaghetti, so to speak, to use a phrase.
I mean,
it's insulting.
Was it his elbow, or was it his hand?
It was Laverne's hand. It was Laverne's whole hand in the pasta.
That's right.
And that was treated as a moment of flirtation.
Yeah.
And
then he sucks the fingers in the most.
Yeah.
That should be sexy, and it's not.
Yeah, and her fingers are in his mouth, and
yeah. For some reason, I couldn't stop thinking of like her hands being sweaty and germ filled, like from cooking over a hot stove. It's like And it's weird. Like you know what? Okay, that's gonna get into TMI territory. Moving on.
Let's just go into the M territory. Let's shuss right into the M territory. I was going to say that it's hard to know how reasonable Shirley's reaction is without knowing what the exact time frame of this episode takes place in. If it's taking place around Drive, She Said, or around the first couple episodes of season 2, which is right around when Edna is introduced, then she really doesn't have any reason to be mad at him because he's dating Lucille. Lucille should be mad at Laverne.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
well, yeah,
I know it's just a gigolo relationship there, but still. Yeah, sorry, go ahead. I apologize.
I was literally just going to say, but that would give Lucille agency, and this is Laverne and Shirley. We can't do that. It's horrible. I am joking, by the way. Yeah, I mean, as much as I didn't like the character of Lucille, at the same time, she deserved better.
Yeah, she could have been written with more thought. There needed to be more thought applied here, and instead, she's just like the easy, horny, divorcee, rich chick type, and it's just
yeah.
But yeah, there's so much about this that doesn't work because we cannot get solid grounding. Carmine and Shirley are so on and off that it's hard to know how committed they are when we go from episode to episode. Their commitment level keeps changing so Shirley can go out on dates with other guys. And I understand why they want Shirley to go out on dates with other guys. It's hard to know how invested we're supposed to be in Carmine and Shirley's relationship. Like, the audience is horrified for a reason, though. They are invested in the relationship. They're invested.
Mm-hmm.
Other people I know are invested, but the show desperately needed consistency. And it needed consistency especially when it came to this relationship. They should have just been building toward an eventual marriage, which would have helped by the time we get deeper into the show. They should have just pulled the trigger.
It feels like this episode, because I give Carmine a lot of crap, and it's become a bit of a joke, and when we do like face reveals, we'll probably eventually do a meme of say the thing, Bart, but this really just feels like an episode that the writers let him down. It doesn't feel like Carmine's a jerk. It's really just that they had an opportunity, because I would have even been more on board with this premise if Laverne was crazy about Carmine and Carmine was not crazy about her, and he wrote the note just to kind of like help her feel better and be kind of sympathetic or pitying at least, which is not okay in its own right either, but at the because it would have been him leading her on, but at the same time that's also very Carmine. That he would be the kind of, dumbass that, he means well and kind of makes a mistake, which he does often with Shirley even. Think of the log. Think of the electric log thing. He's trying to get the nice romantic campfire, and it's the most boring thing, but he was trying, it's.
Yes, yeah.
And so it fails.
Exactly.
So it fails him. It fails Laverne. It fails. It just, It's.
Yeah, it's the writing. It is the writing, the incredibly inconsistent writing.
Yep.
That is the problem.
I was even trying to look up if, Jeff Franklin had written like other episodes we weren't, fond of. And like, I actually looked up his credits and it was like, oh no, these were actually ones that were good. I'm actually gonna have to re-look them up again. Future me might have to edit this.
There were a lot of good Lenny and Squiggy episodes he wrote. And I don't know how much of that is David and Michael punching up dialogue, but there were a lot of good Lenny and Squiggy episodes.
He wrote Jeff Franklin also wrote Fire Show, which is another it's another one of the two girls fighting. So he did the bigger episodes, because he also did You've Pushed Me Too Far, which I know enough about to know where that's going.
It's exciting. I love that episode. I cannot wait to show you that episode. We'll be watching it soon, very soon.
Okay,
as a matter of fact.
Good.
You're gonna like it, I hope. Knock wood.
So but anyway, I feel like there's other stuff I wanted to bring up. I mean, there's a lot of like as I mentioned, like facial gestures I love. There's a great the moment when there's squealy Shirley on the attack, and I felt it was like this very pulp art open mouth scream when she's being pinned down by Laverne. I mean, it's like those. Because that's the weird thing. I mean, we're gonna get to the rankings, and as much as I'm still trying to figure out a number. because there's those little things that are kind of cool, that are kind of cute, that are kind of good. Just that work for me.
I want to specifically mention some nice wardrobe things here.
Yes.
I love Laverne's pink Angora sweater.
Oh, yeah.
It's so nice. I love that pink Angora sweater. I love Shirley's dress. When she comes in the pizza bowl, there's a lot of really nice Shirley wardrobe pieces in this episode. When she goes back from her date with Carmine, she's wearing a really lovely outfit as well.
Mm-hmm.
I really, really like that. Everybody looks really nice in this specific episode.
Yeah, exactly. Like the makeup, hair, and wardrobe were really on top of things this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, Laverne's dress. Oh, I was just going to quickly say, Laverne's dress during the dinner, that is one of my favorite dresses she's worn on the show, to be honest.
It's a cute dress. It's going to surface in a much sadder capacity by the end of the season.
Oh, God.
I will just say that. I won't reveal what the sad reason is, but we will get there.
Oh, no.
Oh! Did you notice how 70s Carmine's collar is when he goes on his date with Laverne?
Oh, yeah.
They were not paying attention to the collars on those men's shirts at all.
Nope.
I don't know why. Were they just buying off the rack or what? They couldn't have been buying off the rack.
It's
no way.
Possible. I also wonder, I mean, to what extent for television they had to deal with sponsorship deals for clothing. Because, you know, in the 50s and 60s, you know, that would be a Hollywood thing, right? You know, dresses by blah, 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 you know, and even in the 70s. I mean, you know, El Cheapo, Pam Grier movies would still have her dresses or outfits would be provided by a company that probably put some money into the production. And I'm kind of curious if that was another way, because, you know, the seasons are getting bigger. They're getting more expensive and they get bigger. You know, sometimes they get pretty big guest stars coming up pretty soon. So, you know, I don't know. Maybe I'm just pulling that out my ass, but I'm curious though, like to what extent those motivated some of those decisions, either because what I mean is it gets you access to good stuff, but if they have something they want you to push, you're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place.
Well, I have 2 bits of information when it comes to that. I know, first of all, that a lot of the wardrobe the girls wore were apparently stock pieces in the Paramount wardrobe department from a story Penny told about going through and finding a monogram sweater when she was trying to figure out what Laverne looked like. And she said, why don't we do this but with an L on it? So people will, you know, see that L, see the shorthand for Laverne, and you won't have to have Cindy constantly calling me Laverne all the time. In dialogue, so people will catch on. The other thing I was going to mention is shout out to Joy, who's Squigeni on Twitter and on YouTube, researched the sneakers that Squiggy wears all the time on the show, which everybody thought were Converses. They weren't. They're generic shoes. So apparently there was some effort not to wear trademark stuff. Brand name stuff on the show. I found that fascinating.
Because the Squigeni YouTube channel is absolute treasure trove of stuff.
It is. It really is. Such good work.
So yeah, definitely give that a look, and that is really interesting to hear. I mean, the generic is having been the independent filmmaker. Yeah, generic is the way to go. You feel more comfortable because it's always about how high profile everything is.
Yeah. And honestly, it's also about not getting sued. You don't want to get sued. You don't want to get sued for using a trademark by mistake. So that's the best thing to do. Yep, that is the best thing to do.
But let's see. There was one more. Okay, yeah, I'm glad I found this note. It's kind of buried because my notes were done in a bit of a haphazard form this week. Did Carmine call her a Baki Beaver?
Bucky Beaver because of her teeth.
I was thinking, yeah.
Let's call him a squat dancer, so it kind of evens out.
True.
So his legs look like he'd been stretched behind a pony, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Oh, that was a good one. Oh,
God.
Once more, I feel as if he looks more like a thug than a dancer. So him, you know, the boxing thing made more sense. Anyway.
Yeah, but we know he can dance. We know he can dance. We know he can sing. I blame and don't blame the show for overexposing that part of his talents, though. Because, there are times, Eddie Mecca, extremely talented, but Carmine should not be entering funerals dancing. Because it starts to look ridiculous even beyond his sitcom level.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I saw the clip and my jaw just hit the fracking floor.
My favorite is that he always does this when he's doing a guest spot on Happy Days. He comes dancing into a gang rumble. He comes dancing into a funeral. On Blansky's Beauties, they literally had him as a completely different character, but as Carmine's cousin, Joey DeLuca, turning backflips during a custody case.
Was it when the custody case was won?
It was when he was supposed to go up to testify. It's just not a good look.
I'm actually glad my microphone is in the way of me hitting my forehead on the desk right now.
I'll show you the clip because another one of our viewers has clipped that bit from Blansky's Beauties. I'll show you that clip later today. But yeah, that keeps happening. That happens over and over again. And I get that Gary was 100% behind him and rallying for him and trying to get him to become a popular face with the fans, but there's a line that should be established where your character isn't running around looking like a dork, basically, in public at a funeral, dancing like you're in a Jerome Robbins musical.
Right.
Yeah, there's a line.
Wow, good pull there. Yeah, Jerome Robbins. Yeah.
Yeah.
It just made me flash back to the first time I ever tried watching West Side Story, and it was the guys walking around, snap the fingers, and it's like back in the days when you could do that and not be gay, and they all pirouette like 2 seconds later. It's like, oh, never mind.
I love West Side Story.
I love that movie. Okay, just for clarification, I was 15. This was almost 20 years ago. It'll be 20 years ago by the time this episode comes out. So, yeah.
We all have our changing opinions.
Yeah, no, I adore the movie. I got to see a 70mm print of that thing. It was incredible.
Oh God!
But
I envy you so much. Oh my God, I love that movie. That's one of my bonding movies with my father. We both love that movie.
Oh, that's awesome! I love that.
Yeah,
I love those bonding movies. Anyway, sorry, distracted.
Yeah. I was going to mention the speech Laverne gives Carmine about how sometimes when you're close to your friends, you get confused sexually and thinking that you have chemistry or something. That's kind of worse than the speech she gives Lenny about friends being forever and Lenny's crush, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, Jesus. In this episode, they're kind of merciless about squashing the ship. It's like super merciless. And this is after seasons of her feeling Carmine up and being sexually attracted. But here they say, well, the sexual attraction is only because they're confusing their anger and their friendship with lust. And then it ends with her insulting him on the phone. You guys don't even get that. I don't think she's good enough for him uplift. So it's kind of bad.
Yeah.
It's mean almost in a way after all that rigmarole. Almost.
Right. And as, so, I will say, like, this is the anecdote, the quick anecdote. And because the fact my girlfriend is my co-host, I will be careful with how I phrase this. There have been like work colleagues, I direct indie movies. You're going to come across really pretty people and you hit it off and you have little bits of chemistry and you're like, but I had a policy. I've always had a policy that I don't date people that I potentially will like work with in that type of capacity. I can't do that. And there were a few times when I thought of like women that I knew that I worked with that I wondered if that would be like the exception. And one, like, to be honest, was pretty darn close. This was, pre dating Lisa, but there was a point when, with some of them, I realized that the attraction was it's not necessarily was it misread. It was more of like starting to like to understand it just wouldn't work out. It's like being able to look forward into the future and think about, oh, damn, I'm bumping my microphone out. It was about looking into the future and understanding what that future meant and being able to realize, being honest with yourself. And I don't like, it feels too simple of an answer for them to just be confusing the friendship and anger with lust, and it very eloquently put, I think. But on top of that as well, or in addition to, it feels as if it's the cheap way out of the situation, which is unfortunate because this is a way to also teach the point that just because you have chemistry with somebody doesn't mean you should be together, and just because you have those desires doesn't mean you have to follow through. And also, is it just the time? Is it the timing of something? Because sometimes you work with somebody for a period and then when that's over, it's over, and then they're gone from your life, and that's kind of it. And that's okay. Or your relationship changes. whatever.
Yeah,
Anyway.
exactly. And like they could have always had that brother and sister relationship complicated by further feelings of sexual attraction. That's normal. That's very, 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 very normal. Say that, well, I'm not really attracted to you because we fight is interesting in of itself.
Mm-hmm.
And then the reason why they think that they hate each other is because they realize they love each other in a different way. Is because they argue all the time about and pick on each other about little things. Now that would be an annoying relationship to be in, period. But that's interesting that is what rings the bell for them instead of something deeper or more fundamentally incompatible. So that's just interesting to me the way they decided to phrase it. They could have gone in any direction with it.
So all this, now that we've really have talked this through, I'm really curious how we're going to rank this one.
So am I. This is a low ender for me. This is about a 5 or 4. Is it a 4?
Yeah.
No, I can't. 4.5 maybe. That's kind of. I guess it is a 4.5 for me because of the way they handle this, what it means to the girls' friendship. But there's so much good stuff in here, like all the bits with Betty, all the actual acting bits are great. There's some fun turns of phrase. The dating behavior is even funny outside of the scope of cheating. But the cheating part of it is just so uncomfortable to watch. Mm-hmm. It's just so uncomfortable to watch play out. If it were done in a time period where Carmine and Shirley clearly weren't seeing each other because Lucille, or he had just broken up with Lucille and he was trying to get over her, maybe that would have worked. I think that would have worked a lot better. Mm-hmm. Maybe she dumps him for a doctor or whatever. That would have been really funny. Mm-hmm. Actually, come to think of it, she dumps him for a doctor. And then,
oh, God.
Why the hell want doctors? What's wrong with me? That would have been good.
That would have been fantastic. God, I'm just imagining like that becomes his bugbear is doctors. And then, at some point, like, anytime a doctor ever has to come through the apartment building, like he just kind of glares at them from the stoop,
Yeah.
Like this dog that's like, I sense that I should hate you.
You smell wrong. You smell like evil.
You smell like antiseptic.
You smell like antiseptic and bad ideas.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
But this episode poses the ultimate question: is Carmine gruesome with losing your mind over? That's the ultimate question this episode poses. And now you can ask that question for yourselves. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, because I hadn't given my ranking 100% yet, I completely now am on the side of it's a 4.5 because of that question. Yeah. Is he worth going crazy? First of all, I don't think really anybody's worth, like I might facetiously say some people are, but given some of the seriousness that this episode sort of skirts with, I would say no. I'd say, yeah.
Before we close this out, I did want to mention we have opening credits changes for season 5 and closing credit changes for season 5. Even though the show, is going to move coasts next season, so this is kind of a waste of time and money. But we get a new closet and opening door sequence with the girls. They refilmed Laverne losing control of all those mugs of beers. And the pizza sequence with Frank and Edna, and there's a new insert scene of Edna and Carmine dancing while Frank watches them. That's all notable.
All of which are horrendously staged, in my opinion. I don't know if they were rushed. I don't know if it was somebody just had to get the shots. I don't know. I don't know what happened here, except for the new closet scene, which also quick shout out to Laverne's orange dreamsicle dress. It's like aside from that, I don't like them. The film stock looks great, but I don't like them. I look at them with much suspicion. No.
The pizza.
No, I don't like it. No.
The pizza bit doesn't bother me. I don't mind the door sequence at all. What bugs me is the blocking on the Edna and Carmine shot because it doesn't put enough emphasis on Frank. Frank's just kind of there. And why the heck is he just sitting there watching them dance? What the heck's going on?
Yeah. See, what if what if Carmine was choreographing them dancing together? He was giving them a lesson. See, that's cute. That's sweet. And it engages
and it
all
shows
three
what
of the yeah, it brings all the characters together. I also found it so weird how empty and dark the place looks. Like it really feels like a weird pickup shot or like a camera test or something.
Yeah. No way, yeah. Yeah, it kind of does. Yeah. And the end credits, Phil and Eddie share an end title slate. Betty shares one, gets one all of her own, and Michael and David get an updated one.
Nice.
And that's all new. It's the first time the three of them get billing, and it's an updated one for David and Michael. And David and Michael get billed in between Betty and Phil and Eddie. So they move them a little pack. We'll see when season 6 rolls around how that will change. Season 6, season 7 will bring some changes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. But yeah, I guess we're now... go ahead.
Not a necessary episode, but there's some fun jokes. There's some okay jokes.
It's not the offensive horror that for us that is like, Bully Show, Date with Eraserhead, those sort of kind of episodes that just, ugh. But, or Shirley and the Other Man was another one for me that so much of that one doesn't work. Ugh. So yeah, it's like I won't turn it off if it's on, but I don't want to I'll probably skip this on rewatches would be my thinking. Yeah. Anyway, so for folks out there listening, we actually took a bit of a break for recording. So this is our first recording session in about 4 months, actually, like proper recording session for this. And so we just wanted to let you folks kind of a little quick reminder, we're changing the format up a little bit. And I've actually probably decided if we like it by the time this episode has come up. But if hopefully it is working for you, and we will be seeing how things go in the future. But I think that does that cover it for today?
Yeah, I think it does.
Nice. All right. Well, thank you everybody so much for joining us. If you would like to know more, please join us at Night After Night PC on Twitter or Night After Night Pod on Facebook, Tumblr, WordPress, and Patreon. Which, speaking of, as of this recording in April of 2021, we have 2 patrons at the moment, and we would like to give them a very special, lovely shout out that is actually recorded in the episode and is not a loop that we had to mad dash to put into the episode. Yes, that is a little hot. That isn't how the sauce is made sort of thing, but whatever. We're just gonna go with it.
Yes. Shout out to y'all.
Yeah, but we love you so much. We are so appreciative, and any sort of support is just incredibly appreciated. And we just it's our opinions and our dumb little opinions and the work we put into this and all that it means the world to us. So thank you.
Yep.
And
go for it.
I was going to move us into the next segment. You probably have more to say.
Yeah. I didn't have anything else. I was going to mention that joke about Laverne saying that her dads were bigger. She could probably fit into the dues, but her dads were bigger. That's what I actually thought of as you were going through that, and that's popped into my head. That I wanted to reference that made me laugh. That joke. That joke made me laugh. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. There are some good laughs in this episode. It's all. It's you know what, your mileage may vary. We know a couple of folks that are actually pretty fond of this episode, and my reaction to it when I initially watched it caused a little. It'll be ancient Twitter history by the time this comes out. So it was a little kerfluffle. So we hope by the time this comes up, I hope there's no hard feelings. It's because it's complicated, and we all have our opinions. And our opinions about the show are valid as long as it's not hurting anybody.
Yes. We don't mean to be mean or hurtful or cruel or anything like that.
Cool.
Yeah, cool.
Anyway, so what's our next episode, man?
I don't know, California boy. In our next episode, the girls get jealous of everybody else's Columbus Day weekend plans, so they decide to run off to a fat farm and become counselors. But a lot of suffering awaits them in Fat City Holiday.
Nice. Well, so. Okay, this one, as an overweight person, this one's going to get interesting.
Yeah, same and yeah. That's all I gotta say.
Ugh. Yeah. All right. Well, again, your mileage may vary. Please join us again next time, and maybe, you know what, in defiance of what the next episode is about, I'm going to go get a cookie after we're done recording this episode.
Enjoy your cookies, pet your schnoodles, and watch for your dads.